Wonder what it would be like to be Moses that day, and you're out tending to the flock. Been around there doing that, maybe 40 years or so. And all of a sudden, a normal day turns extraordinary. The same old stops being the same old. Have you ever had a day to where the normal day turned into the extraordinary day? And sometimes that can be in a positive or it can be in a negative situation, but everything changes. This was one of those days for Moses. Moses is tending the flock. He's there in a faithful position, faithful to the task that is at hand. Are we faithful to the task that is at hand? Or sometimes is it like, the feeling that I hear from our clergy peers that are at the place of burnout, and they say, it's just the same old thing. You listen to people, and you deal with people, and you have worship, and Bible school, and Sunday school, and prayer meetings, and Bible study, and you preach again, and it's just the same old thing, and nothing ever seems to change. Until one day, that epiphany moment comes, and a normal day becomes an extraordinary day. Brothers and sisters, whatever God has called us to do, we are to be faithful to the task because it's the task that God has called us to. Because God has called us to the task makes it an extraordinary day. Or maybe we're with Moses in that place and we just feel like that we've been placed by God into some sense of spiritual retirement. Nothing's happening. And any time that we hear that something's really happening with God, it seems like it's always somewhere else. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever felt like watching television or hearing stories and testimonies from other people? It's always that God is moving, but it's somewhere else. And when you get to somewhere else, it's not where God is moving, so it feels like it's somewhere else that God is moving, and you never find somewhere else. Well, maybe Moses felt that way. Maybe in your life even today, it's been a long time since you really felt God in a way that made it an extraordinary day. Remember, Moses was about to see more in the desert than he would have seen in Pharaoh's court. The bush is on fire, but it's not being consumed. The flames of fire where the angel of the Lord was appearing to Moses was burning, but not being consumed. It catches Moses' attention. And out in the desert, where it's barren, lifeless, nothing happens on the backside, where it's still dry, dusty, and maybe lonesome. It's the place that Moses maybe never expected to find God in such a way. Have you ever found God somewhere that you did not expect to find God there? In my other life, maybe not all of you have another life. You're blessed. But there are some of us that in growing up, we had another life. You know what I'm talking about if you had one. And I was in an establishment one night. It has a long counter and stools on one side. And this lady walked in with this huge, thick, black King James Bible. We all knew her. We knew her by name. And I'm thinking, here she comes. And for some reason, I was the first patron that she picked out at that long counter with stools on the other side. And I was expecting from her religion that condemned me. Because that's what I'd been receiving. In my other life, rather than receiving grace and love and knowledge and instructions about the gospel of Jesus Christ that could change my life, I've been receiving religion that was condemning me. Jesus said that I come not to condemn, but to redeem. I was expecting religion, but instead, this sister brought the presence of God. And she stepped up, laid that big, thick, black King James Bible on that long counter, sat down on the stool, put her arm around me and said, God loves you. I was about 20 years old. I should have been home with my wife and child, but I wasn't, because I was in my other life. And I did not expect to find the presence of God on the stool in front of the big long counter. And that night, about 1 o'clock, it wasn't religion knocking at my door. It was in the desert, barren wasteland of my life. God was in the unusual place knocking at my door. Sometimes we find God in the unexpected places that we've only found with religion or condemnation. Maybe that's how Moses felt. But God was getting Moses' attention so God could speak and call Moses. And the reason that God was doing that is because God cared about the people. If we read the text, that's what God said. I've seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I care about my people. And Moses, I want to get your attention. Do you realize the difference that night that I was facing? Because I could brush off condemnation that just told me that what I was doing wrong and why I was going to hell. But I didn't know how to brush off God in a barren land, in a barren heart, in a barren soul. Because God was caring about me. And God caring about me, God was caring about a wife that was home praying for me. And a daughter that was, 3, 4 years old that didn't know what was going on. God was caring about other people and caring about me. I realized that stool and that proximity became a different place because I respected what this gal was saying. And maybe that's how Moses felt. God said, Moses, it's holy ground. Take off your sandals. And God wanted to get his attention, his respect, and his submission. Now, it wasn't that night that God got all of that from me, but it was that night that God got my attention. The miracle of the fire of God that was burning in the bush to get Moses' attention. It never went out. And yet the bush was never consumed. God had started a fire in my heart. Because the messenger that had come from God had given a message that I could listen to that caught my attention. This message from God to Moses about this burning bush that was not being consumed caught Moses' attention enough to listen to God. And God wants to set that fire not only in the world's life, but to rekindle that fire in all of our lives. God wants to burn within us so that you and I have the passion. The passion for God, the passion for the kingdom, the passion for ministry, the passion for ministry, the passion to serve the kingdom and to help others.